Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with Savory Ricotta Tart. That's right, don't let the flatness fool you. Despite coming out a little thinner than we wanted, this thing was thick with herby, cheesy flavor. And besides, it's been a long time since we did a video for people that don't like tall food. So let me show you how to put this together, and as you'll see, it was unbelievably simple. So step one, we're going to toast a little bit of breadcrumbs in a skillet on medium heat. And of course, we'll do that with the help of a little bit of olive oil. So we'll drizzle that in, we'll mix that up. And there it is, I'm using that spatula again. I know I still haven't explained it, but I promise one of these days I'll give you the whole story. But anyway, like I said, we're going to toast that over medium heat. And what I like to do about halfway through, when I just start seeing it begin to turn a little bit golden, is I like to take a small piece of Reggiano and Parmesan all over the top of this. And it's tough to give quantities with this kind of stuff because it's grated so finely, but it's probably a tablespoon or so. And we'll go ahead and stir that in and continue toasting that until it looks something like this. So that's looking good. And at that point, we can just turn off the heat and just reserve that until our pan is prepped, which is the next step. So I'm going to go ahead and use one of these spring-form pans. Very simple contraption. You got this round bottom, and then you have this ring, which has like a spring latch on it. And the springy ring thing goes on the bottom thing, and it snaps together like that. It's very simple, but if you do get confused, it does come with directions. But anyway, once we put that together, we're going to go ahead and drizzle in some olive oil and brush that all over. And as usual, I'm being pretty generous with the oil. It's okay. It's good for your hair and nails. And at that point, let's go ahead and dump in our toasted breadcrumbs, and we'll go ahead and distribute those evenly. And you could use a spatula, but I think it's better to give it the old shaka-shaka. It's probably the best system. Or a combination, up to you. And then once those are all spread out, we can just set that aside and move on to the ricotta cheese filling. So for that, we're going to want to put 2 large eggs in a mixing bowl, and then we're going to take a whisk and we're going to beat those good, real good, like for a couple minutes at least. All right, we want this to kind of thicken up and get a little bit frothy and bubbly. So keep beating and beating. And it will kind of turn into more of a yellow color. And then as that thickens up and we introduce even more air, it's going to lighten up even more until it's kind of a pale yellow like this. So right there is perfect. So let's stop and add some seasoning, which for me included some salt, some freshly ground black pepper. I'm also going to add some hot red chili flakes. I want a little heat. Actually, I wanted more than a little heat. That's why I also put in some cayenne. Helps you live longer. Proven scientific fact. And then I love a little bit of fresh herb in this. So I'm going to use a combo of a little bit of parsley and some sweet basil. And I'll go ahead and whisk that in. And as I was mixing, I thought to myself, you should put a little nutmeg in. That'd be good. So I'm going to grate in just a tiny touch. And you know we use the whole nutmeg around here. And really, if you just grate a little bit when you need it like this, it tastes so much fresher and better. And we'll go ahead and give that another mix for no apparent reason. And then it's time to add the cheese. So I'm going to add about 1.5 cups of a really, really nice, really fresh, local ricotta cheese. Try to use the absolute best one you can. No skim milk, please. And then we're also going to add a big handful of finely grated Parmigiano Reggiano. And is it fine to substitute with the cheap domestic stuff? No. No, it's not. And then once our cheeses are in there, let's go ahead and give that a final mix. And then we're going to carefully transfer it into our prepared pan. But don't just dump it in. Let's go ahead and take a spatula and kind of dollop it in gently. See, I don't want those crumbs to move around. And then one slice has more than another. And then your friend's upset and there's a whole scene. And who needs that kind of drama? So I think this system works better. Just kind of dollop it all over. And then once it's in there, then start spreading it around. And by the way, you'll notice I'm not really referring to those crumbs as a crust, because this really doesn't have a crust. That's just going to give the bottom a little texture and also make it easier to serve. But anyway, like I said, go ahead and carefully spread that evenly. And then, of course, with recipes like this, we come to that very important question. Should I tap that? And in this case, the answer is definitely yes. We want to settle this down in the pan. So we're going to go ahead and give it the old tappa-tappa. But not only that, I'm going to teach you a new one. The old droppa-droppa. Yes, just pick it up and drop it. And by the way, you only have to do it once or twice. I totally got carried away. That'll happen. And then once we've dropped it like it's tart, dropped it like it's tart, dropped it like it's tart, I'm going to go ahead and finish the top with a little more Parmesan. And then after that, we'll also drizzle a little more olive oil. And at that point, our ricotta tart is ready for the oven. So we're going to go ahead and put that in the center of a preheated 325-degree oven for about 25 minutes. Or until it's set, which means if you pull it out and give it a little wiggle, you should see just a little jiggle, but it's not going to look wet. All right, you're not going to see like waves in the center. All right, so that's what I mean by set. Just give it a little jiggle, look for the wiggle. And then we're going to go ahead and let this cool down before we do anything else. But one thing I do like to do while it's hot, I like to take a paring knife and just run it around the outside, because that's going to contract as it cools. And I don't want anything impeding that contraction. But anyway, that's pretty much it. We're going to let it sit there and cool for at least 15 or 20 minutes before we attempt to unmold this, which I'm going to do now. So we'll unlatch it. We'll take off the ring. And that looks amazingly thin. And we'll talk about that on the blog. But when I've made this before, I've used pie pans, so it was a little thicker. But this time I was trying to do like a thinner tart type object. So next time we'll either do more filling or a smaller pan. But anyway, I can't pretend to be concerned about that at this point. The next step is we're going to throw that on a sheet pan. And don't forget, it's totally cooled down by this point. And we'll dust the top with a little more parm. And then all I'm going to do is put that under the broiler until the top is browned, which really is going to make it look a lot nicer. So I went ahead and set my broiler on high. I put my tart just a few inches underneath. And unfortunately, I don't have a short tripod. So I went ahead and used the old sit on the floor cam. And in a few short minutes later, it looked like this, which I thought was significantly more attractive. And at that point, we're ready to slice and serve. And this is very versatile as far as how you can serve it. You can serve it warm just like this out of the broiler. You can serve it at room temp, which is how I usually do it. But a lot of people actually chill it and serve it cold, which is also quite delicious. And then generally something like this is served with a little salad. So I'm going to fake it with some microgreens and some sliced Cherokee cherry tomatoes. So while it is true you can't fake the funk, you can definitely fake the salad, which I did here. And there you go. A delicious and incredibly simple herbed ricotta tart. And even though it was a little vertically challenged, it was incredibly, incredibly delicious. I just love the texture, love the taste. Like I said, kind of an experiment using this larger springform pan, but we'll play around with it. I don't really make recipes the same way twice, so I don't expect this to be any different, but I really did enjoy this thoroughly, and I hope you give it a try soon. So head over to foodwishes.com for all the ingredient amounts and more info as usual. And as always, enjoy.